Millionaire single dad discovered an incredible truth from a homeless woman digging through trash. Jason Wright gripped his steering wheel, the luxury interior of his Tesla feeling more like a cage than a haven. The hum of technology buzzed around him. Screens flashed, messages pinged. A promising partnership loomed in the air, yet his thoughts spiraled, settling heavily on Mia's latest disappointed look. Would she be okay waiting for Daddy at home again? He parked behind his office, mental lists of tasks threatening to suffocate him. As he swung open the car door, a gust of wind whipped through the chilly evening, carrying with it an unsettling feeling. He caught sight of her, then a woman, too thin for the layers she wore, digging through a dumpster. Jason hesitated, then felt a pang of disgust ripple through him. He was wealthy, respected, a single dad with a startup promising to redefine tech. Why should he feel anything for someone like her? Yet he fought the instinct to turn away. Something, buried deep within, stirred at the edges of his mind like an echo of Lila's compassion. Why was he here when Mia was waiting for him at home? "Excuse me," he found himself saying, the words slipping out before he could comprehend the enormity of the situation. Her eyes met his hollow, yet flickering with life. An unexpected conversation began, her voice raw from weathering more storms than he could imagine. As she spoke of her life, of cascading losses, detours she never planned to travel, he started to unravel. One moment earlier, he had felt so accomplished, invulnerable even. Now, he stood frozen, haunted by the growing distance between him and his daughter, choked by the realization that the drive for success had drawn a chasm where love once flourished. Images flashed in his mind. Mia's drawings of their family, her little fingers reaching for him. Beautiful snapshots suffocated by deadlines and quarterly targets. On reflex, he wanted to silence the woman's tale, unable to face the mounting discomfort her truth carved into him. Before Jason could spiral further, she dropped to name a man who played a pivotal role in his rise. "Yes, my boy," she said, voice cracking. A wash of disbelief flooded through him. The very man who had guided his career? Her estranged son? The connection jarred him. He was face to face with the reality of how intertwined their lives were social barriers he perceived crumbling into nothing. The weight of judgment pressed on his chest like a vice. How could he reconcile his privileged life with hers? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jason stood at odds within himself. A simmering anguish brewed beneath the surface. Torn between the man his startup dictated he be the one who wins, who thrives, and the man he had lost touch with, the father who should be nurturing his daughter. Every hardened decision felt superficial compared to the empathy awakening inside him. Caught in a web of moral dilemmas, he felt pangs of regret sharpening his focus. He clenched his jaw, torn between the pull to connect with Mia and the nagging allure of professional accolades. What really mattered in this web of earthly pursuits? As Sarah's story sank deeper into his conscience, he teetered on acknowledging his privilege for the first time while wrestling with the expected norms of success he had chased for far too long. With every realization bubbling to the surface, Jason felt the resolve hardening around an imminent decision he was yet to face. Yet that decision loomed. Would it lead him back to the embrace of love or deeper into the void of loneliness? The answer lay before him, demanding to be seen as the air thickened with possibility. Would he choose redemption unfolding before him or retreat behind the facade of triumph? His mind raced toward this haunting uncertainty, standing at the precipice of life-altering change, with fear and yearning intertwined, waiting to see what he would ultimately choose. Jason stepped back from the dumpster, his breath catching as Sarah's words echoed in his mind. The sidewalks that had once seemed as familiar as his own office felt strange now, each crack in the pavement a reflection of the choices that had led him here. The encounter had shifted something profound within him, nudging open the door to a reality he had meticulously kept shut. He trudged into the office building, aware of the polished glass exteriors and the smarmy confidence that accompanied them. Instantly, the hum of corporate ambition enveloped him, but he found it stifling today. With every step, the walls seemed to close in, each cubicle a stark reminder of the life he had built, a life that now felt less like success and more like a gilded cage. As he settled at his desk, Jason noticed the array of unread emails demanding his attention. Each ping felt like a thief, robbing him of the clarity he had just begun to grasp. He scanned briefly over the messages, meetings, negotiations, deadlines, but for the first time, none of it held his interest. Instead, the whisper of purpose, now intertwined with a deepening sense of responsibility, urged him to consider beyond balance sheets. That Mia's pictures dotted the walls of his office, bright colors contrasting sharply to the grayscale of his career. He couldn't help but replay Sarah's story in his mind. The vision of her perseverance forced him to confront his own life choices. What was the point of this success if his daughter, in her quiet and innocent way, felt neglected? It hit him then, the realization that every hour spent at the office was an hour taken away from her. He had pursued success with zeal, believing it would grant Mia everything she needed. But now he felt the weight of his oversight. Wealth and respect meant little if he faltered in the role that mattered most, being her father. He resisted the urge to pick up his phone and shuffle through outdated obligations. What awaited him in that world of spreadsheets would still be there when he returned. Mia's laughter, however, was the fleeting soundtrack of his own life. It beckoned him to explore what balance might truly mean, a balance that included compassion and connection. With an unconventional resolve, Jason pushed back from his desk and stood. He straightened his tie, but didn't return for another meeting. Instead, he took the elevator down, guided less by a ticking clock and more by an impulse to choose connection over ambition. His feet led him to a local cafe, a place Mia adored for its steaming hot chocolate and warm pastries. He could see her cheerful face smiling back at him, her joy dissolving the haze of regret clouding his mind earlier. As he entered, the smells enveloped him, and he imagined this place being a canvas for them to paint their memories together. Jason pulled out his phone and texted his assistant to reschedule the day's meetings. The weight of the decision settled on his shoulders with a strange mix of anxiety and relief. He'd never prioritized anything this recklessly before, but what did it matter if this step took him deeper into understanding his own values? The thought sent tremors through him. He was no longer the unyielding businessman consumed by success. Perhaps he was finally becoming something else, someone who cared, someone willing to face the uncomfortable truths life threw his way. Just as he pictured Mia's delighted expression upon entering the cafe, his phone buzzed. A familiar name flashed, and he felt a twisted sense of fate coil in his stomach. It was a message from the mentor who had helped him scale his enterprise, the same man who had been a part of Sarah's past, and now, possibly his future too. With a mix of anticipation and dread, he opened it. The message read, "Jason, we need to talk. It's about Sarah." As his heart raced, Jason realized he stood on the brink of a new chapter. Could this conversation hold the key to unraveling the tangled threads of his life further? Was he now ready to explore how deeply his responsibility extended? Would knowledge of a woman he had written off become another stepping stone toward personal growth and familial connection? With each decision echoing with possibility, Jason found himself holding his breath, teetering on the edge of transformation as he readied himself for whatever revelation awaited him next. Jason stared at his phone, the cursor blinking on the message that had the potential to shift his world yet again. The words loomed heavy over him, simple, yet loaded with implications that demanded exploration. He couldn't shake the thoughts pulsating through his mind. What was it about Sarah that could possibly impact his life now? His resolve to create a stronger bond with Mia silently wrestled with the pull of his past ambitions. Questions flooded him. Could Sarah's insights provide the perspective he needed to deepen his role as a father? Or would revisiting the past open wounds he wasn't ready to confront? With determination edging out doubt, he stood, pushing back the chair that felt like a prison. The cafe, the place that symbolized the shift he so desperately sought, was calling to him now more than ever. He needed to act, not just on his instinct for Mia, but on his instinct for personal clarity. Stepping outside, he inhaled the brisk air of the city, which felt refreshing against the weight that burdened him. He made a beeline to the cafe, each stride nudging him closer to a redefined self. As he entered, the warmth enveloped him, and he spotted an empty table, a spot perfect for dreaming up new memories with his daughter. He ordered 2 steaming cups of hot chocolate, envisioning Mia's face lighting up when she saw the decadent marshmallows floating atop her drink. The server's smile as he handed him the drinks briefly distracted him from the nervous ache in his stomach. But as he settled at the table, he felt the pressure building again. Should he respond to the message from his mentor? The memories associated with that name swirled in his mind, reminding him of the ruthless ambition he once embraced. A world filled with meetings, negotiations, and cutthroat competitions was suddenly so unappealing, yet it was also familiar. Just then, his phone buzzed again, and he flinched, feeling the urgency of it wash over him. The message flashed once more. "I know things about Sarah you don't call me." Jason set the hot chocolates down, the clinking sound against the table breaking through his reverie. His heart raced, not just from anxiety, but from the intoxicating thrill of confrontation. What could his mentor possibly know? Was Sarah still entangled in machinations of a world he had thought he escaped? A vision of Mia popped into his mind, a scene of her confidently walking across a stage during her school graduation. He wanted her to thrive and chase her dreams. What legacy would he leave if he stayed mired in a past he was trying to leave behind? He reached for his phone, but then hesitated. Should he unravel the threads of Sarah's life before fully stitching together his own? In the throes of his internal struggle, he thought of other single parents he had encountered, others who paved paths through adversity. Each story unfolded like a lesson, each moment a reflection of personal sacrifices endured. Was the pursuit of knowledge about Sarah an essential aspect of his own development? Finally, he summoned every ounce of courage he had left. His fingers flew over the screen, typing a reply to his mentor, a simple yet powerful inquiry. "What do you know?" Before he could second-guess himself, he hit send. As the message flew into the virtual ether, he leaned back, allowing a rush of adrenaline to course through him. This was no longer just about business or obligation. It was about genuine connection, confronting truths, and embracing the complex weaving of lies he had so carefully kept at bay. Then, like a lightning bolt, the thought struck him perhaps it wasn't just his relationship with Sarah that needed tending, but also the things about himself he had not yet discovered. As he gazed out the window, the city streets beckoned for a new exploration, and he suddenly realized he needed to unearth more than just Sarah's story. Would the revelations from his mentor open doors Jason didn't even know existed? Would they provide him with tools not only to understand his past, but to redefine his future as both a businessman and a father? In the silence that ensued, Jason felt the anticipation build. Where would this journey of discovery lead him? Jason sat at the cafe table. The once comforting warmth now felt stifling, suffocating even. His phone lay on the table, a reminder of the decision looming over him. The thick, frothy chocolate he had ordered started to cool, untouched, just like the multitude of thoughts swirling in his mind. What was he expecting from a conversation with his mentor about Sarah? Perhaps he hoped for a revelation, a safeguard against the potential emotional turbulence that could ensue. He was struck by an unsettling realization. This could very well be about more than just Sarah. Could it be an invitation to look into himself? He analyzed the facade he had carefully constructed, the kind, devoted father, always aiming to be there for Mia, but still tethered to career aspirations. Yet, this man was also ambivalent, a restless spirit yearning for something deeper, the hidden fragments of his identity still searching for validation. The crunch of boots on pavement and chatter of people outside momentarily distracted him. Characters in their own stories, they filled the world beyond his current anxieties with their own narratives. He remembered a recent interaction with a stranger, a woman digging through the trash behind the cafe for abandoned food. Her eyes had flickered with despair, yet held a tenacity that caught Jason off guard. Maybe that was the true essence of his hesitation. It was easier to look outward for growth and understanding than to face the uncomfortable depths within. The thought struck him it wasn't just business insight he was after, but clarity about what was here and now. He was a father, yes, but also a man confronting his own narrative. His fingers drummed impatiently on the table, thinking how the struggle she endured mirrored the challenges of single parenthood. "Excuse me? Are you okay?" A soft voice interrupted his reverie. It was the barista, who had been observing him closely. Jason smiled weakly, just thinking, "Have you ever had a moment where you didn't know what to do next?" Her eyes lit up with understanding. "Sure, happens all the time. Sometimes it's okay to not have all the answers. You just have to see where the moment takes you," she replied before bustling off to attend to other patrons. There it was again, an invitation to embrace uncertainty. But still, the pull toward the familiar, a life defined by plans and scheduled meetings, was strong. He thought back to his carefully structured career path that now seemed like shackles rather than stepping stones. Could the voice of Sarah resound in his own choices and redefine his version of success? He clenched his jaw, grappling with the storm of options whirling in his head. If he engaged with his mentor, he might pry open doors he had never intended to. But what if those doors revealed truths he wasn't ready to confront? What if entering that space meant embracing not just the regrets tied to Sarah, but the lessons that life had taught him through Mia, too? The cafe continued around him, filled with lively chatter, yet he felt as if he were ensconced in a bubble, there yet absent. With each tick of the clock, he sensed time slipping through his fingers, a commodity he had once hoarded with such fervor. Moment by moment, he began to realize this wasn't just about uncovering Sarah's truths. It was about diving deeper into his own. He took a deep breath and instinctively reached for his phone again. Could it be that the path toward becoming the father he aspired to be was rooted in the very confrontation he feared? As he opened his messaging app, Jason's heart raced once more. This wasn't merely a daunting task ahead. This was also the genesis of a new chapter in his life. Before he could dwell on indecision, he composed a new message. "I'm ready to know." Just then, his phone buzzed again, and he glanced down, barely registering the incoming message from his mentor as adrenaline surged through him. The moment arrived to not only face the truth he sought about Sarah, but to confront the echoing silence of his own untold story. Where would this path lead him next? What revelations awaited just beyond the threshold of his comfort zone? The answers felt tantalizingly close, yet the uncertainty was as thrilling as it was terrifying. With a surge of anticipation, Jason tapped on his mentor's message. "Let's meet. I'll be at the office in an hour." The words on the screen danced in front of him, half-formed reflections of the deep conversation that awaited him. An unsettling mix of excitement and dread knotted in his stomach. He had come a long way from merely thinking about the changes he needed. Now, he was on the brink of an actual transformation. As he rose from the cafe table, the weight of his decision pressed on him. The chatter of customers faded into a muted background as he stepped outside. The fresh air was a stark contrast to the stifling cafe, filling his lungs with a promise of clarity. Each footstep felt purposeful, pulling him not just toward his mentor, but deeper into himself. The world moved around him, and yet Jason felt frozen in time, engulfed in his thoughts. What did he hope to gain? Insights about Sarah's past, or perhaps an understanding of how it intertwined with his present? He longed for illumination, yet fear of the unknown threatened to paralyze him. While he'd always seen himself as a devoted father and an ambitious employee, beneath that facade lay a tumult of emotions and unanswered questions. His phone chimed again, a new distraction. A quick glance revealed a message from Mia. "What is Daddy doing today?" The innocent curiosity of his daughter tugged at his heart. The weight of his impending meeting suddenly felt heavier. He would be stepping in not only a conversation about Sarah, but also a conversation that could shape how he approached fatherhood. "I'm figuring things out, sweetheart," he responded, attempting to mask his own uncertainty, to project confidence and readiness. He knew he had to embody the kind of father he wanted Mia to see, a man comfortable with himself and his choices, someone who embraced challenges rather than shrinking from them. Jason navigated through the bustling streets, his mind whirling between fleeting thoughts of his mentor and the stranger he had encountered at the cafe. The woman's tenacity echoed in his mind. That glimmer of hope amid despair was hauntingly familiar. Perhaps she understood the fragility of life better than he did, an understanding shaped by harsh realities, something he had shielded himself from. Arriving at his office building, he paused at the entrance, surveying the skyline. It felt as if each towering structure represented a facet of his life, a career he felt tethered to, yet not wholly committed to. Was he living his story authentically, or was he simply a character acting in someone else's narrative? Taking a deep breath, he pushed through the glass doors and stepped into the lobby. The cool, air-conditioned space contrasted sharply with the weight of his internal deliberations. Each heartbeat thundered in his ears as he made his way to his mentor's office. He knocked, then opened the door, stepping into a room filled with warmth and inviting decor, a stark contrast to the darkness of his anticipated conversation. "Jason, come in," his mentor said, gesturing to a chair. The conversation began almost immediately, his mentor guiding the dialogue towards Sarah with admirable tact. But it wasn't long before Jason felt the pressure rise in his chest again, threatening to choke him as he wrestled with his own emotions. "Before I can understand her," he found himself saying, "I think I need to understand me, why I reacted the way I did back then." The admission escaped him, raw and unfiltered. His mentor's eyes lit up, recognizing the path Jason tentatively began to forge. The revelation hung in the air, palpable and electric. Jason could feel the boundaries of his old self blurring. This was about more than Sarah. It was about unlocking truths he had buried deep within. Just then, a sudden thought pierced through his focus. Was he ready to leave this version of himself behind? As he engaged in the unfolding dialogue, new insights began to spark. He discovered the urgency to explore the interconnectedness of his experiences, fatherhood, career, and the pain he had sidestepped. Each response from his mentor unearthed another piece of his hidden self. The anticipation of the conversation transitioned into something thrilling, liberating, and amidst that growing determination, a stirring realization took root. He was not just reclaiming his narrative, but also reconstructing his relationship with Mia. But what would happen when he faced the truths of his past head-on? Jason suddenly felt like a tightrope walker, suspended between safety and the unknown. Could he maintain his balance, or would the realization shatter everything he had once clung to? Just as the weight of the conversation began to solidify, another knock on the door echoed through the room, breaking his concentration. The moment held its breath, and Jason turned to see who would enter next, uncertain of how this would further complicate his profound journey of discovery. The door creaked open, and Jason's mentor turned, a look of mild surprise flashing across his face. A figure slipped into the room, barely noticeable at first, but Jason instinctively straightened in his seat, his heart racing. It was the woman from the cafe, her presence jolting him as if a flood of memories washed over him. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, voice steady yet gentle. "I just needed to drop off something for Jason." As she stepped forward, she held out a small notebook, its corners frayed and pages well-loved. His mentor glanced between them, uncertainty mingling in his expression. "Do you two know each other?" Jason nodded, feeling a wave of heat rise in his cheeks. "We met earlier, at a cafe." His mind raced. Why was she here? Did she know what he was about to confront today? The weight of her unexpected appearance affected him deeply, stirring a mix of anxiety and curiosity within. "Good to see you again," he mumbled, barely making eye contact as he reached for the notebook. It felt oddly heavy, as if it contained the weight of unspoken truths. "Inside, it might help you sort through some things," she said, her gaze steady on him. She had a way of looking beneath the surface, and that unnerved him. He flashed a weak smile, uncertain of how to respond to her kindness. As she moved to leave, he lowered his voice. "Wait, why do you want to help me?" She paused, turning back in the doorway. "Because I see you're searching for something you haven't yet found," she replied, a nuance reflecting understanding far beyond casual interaction. Then she slipped away, leaving the room permeated with an air of mystery and a sense of vulnerability. Jason stared at the notebook, its pages inviting yet intimidating. He inhaled sharply, battling the swirling thoughts in his mind. His mentor shifted closer, breaking the tension. "This could be meaningful, Jason. Why don't you take a look?" With tentative fingers, Jason opened to the first page. Scrawled notes, fragments of profound thoughts, and sketches danced before him, each entry a collision between despair and tenacity. As he read, flashes of insight struck him, reflections on resilience, the importance of confronting fears, and glimpses into her hardship. It reminded him of his own struggles, hidden behind a facade of success. "This is powerful," he murmured, more to himself than to his mentor. The words flowed through him like water, shaping stones, revealing raw emotions he had kept buried. Each line ignited his desire for deeper self-reflection. "Do you see it?" his mentor urged, excitement flickering in his eyes. "Your journey of understanding is much bigger than Sarah. It's about embracing all parts of yourself to create a new narrative in your life, in your fatherhood." Jason nodded, heart hammering in his chest. It was as if a dormant part of him had finally begun to awaken a recognition of the fragmented aspects of his identity. Could he really become the father he envisioned, balancing vulnerability and strength? The conversation shifted, guided by his mentor's brilliant inquiries that pushed Jason further. Together, they pulled apart the threads of his past, examining each painful knot. The session molded into a crucible for transformation. Every insight deepened his understanding of himself. He was forced to confront long-buried fears about both his relationship with Sarah and his role as Mia's father. Just as hope started to swell within him, doubt crept back in. What if this newfound awareness led him to painful realizations he wasn't prepared to handle? "I can't walk away from this," he exclaimed suddenly, startling himself. "How do I know if I'm ready for all these changes?" His mentor leaned forward, urging him onward. "You won't know until you dare to step outside your comfort zone. Identify the fears, confront them. That's how reclaiming your narrative works." The challenge hung between them, heavy yet liberating. Gripping the notebook tightly, Jason felt its weight, not just as a physical object, but as a symbol of release. The words within it would guide him, laying the groundwork for the transformation he sought. But as he considered bold next steps, one final thought pricked his consciousness. Was he strong enough to confront all that awaited him? The uncertainty of the answer hung in the air like a tension-filled moment. The unknown, a dark horizon waiting to be crossed. With that nagging question lingering in his mind, Jason realized facing his past was only the first step. Confronting the truths he had shielded himself from would determine the course of his future. As the conversation reached a pause, his mentor eyed him knowingly. "The time has come to face what you've been avoiding." Could Jason muster the courage to emerge from the shadows of his past? A stirring urgency began to bubble within him, hinting that the moment of truth was approaching. Jason sat back in his chair, gripping the notebook with a newfound intensity. The words from his mentor echoed in his mind like sirens calling him into the depths of his own psyche. "The time has come to face what you've been avoiding." The urgency of his mentor's statement thrummed in his veins, activating an internal storm of conflicting emotions. He could feel every bit of unease swirl within him, anxiety, fear, and the tiniest flicker of hope, all fighting for attention. Each page of the notebook he had opened seemed to call out to him, urging him to delve deeper into the complexities of his own experience. What truths lay buried in his heart, waiting for the right moment to surface. But that moment, was he truly prepared for it? The thought rattled him, yet excitement flickered in the recesses of his mind, mingling with uncertainty. What if he could emerge stronger? What if he uncovered parts of himself that had remained dormant for far too long? Reflecting on the woman's words, "I see you're searching for something you haven't yet found," he began to contemplate the implications of that statement. Searching. The word resonated. He was stuck in a cycle of following expectations, yet he felt a persistent tugging in his soul, encouraging him to disrupt that pattern. Jason? His mentor's voice cut through the haze of his thoughts. "What's holding you back?" The question hung in the air, heavy with significance. Jason felt compelled to answer honestly, to free himself from the cage of silence he had built around his emotions. "I guess it's fear. Fear of facing my mistakes, of damaging my bond with Mia, of even failing with Sarah again." There is an unexpected power in articulating the fears that had kept him imprisoned. "Fear is a normal part of your journey," his mentor replied sagely. "But remember, it can't control your choices unless you allow it." Taking a deep breath, Jason opened the notebook again to a random page. As he skimmed through the handwritten reflections, one thought struck him: honesty. The truth penned on these pages was raw and unfiltered, how unlike his own meticulously curated life. Rarely did he dare reveal the broken pieces of himself, the parts that struggled, the parts that longed for more. That he closed his eyes, envisioning Mia. She deserved to know him not just as her father, but as someone who grappled with his imperfections. A wave of resolve surged within him. "I will do this," he said, more to himself than to his mentor. "I need to confront the past and discover who I truly am, for her sake and for mine." "Good." His mentor smiled, pride illuminating his features. "Now, let us make this journey practical. What is your first step?" Jason leaned forward, heart racing. "I'll talk to Sarah," he said, a sense of clarity emerging alongside the fear. "And I want to just focus on the breakup. I need to unpack everything, the mistakes, the pain, the misunderstandings. I want it to be a conversation that matters." "Excellent choice," his mentor said, nodding appreciatively. "Remember to listen as much as you speak." A palpable excitement filled Jason's chest. The tension of the looming task transformed into a catalyst for growth. He imagined the difficult conversations he would have, not just with Sarah, but also within himself. The fear would still be there, but it began to feel like a necessary ingredient for change, not an insurmountable barrier. As the session drew to a close, Jason exited the office with the notebook clutched tightly in his hand. The streets outside buzzed with afternoon life, distant sounds mingling into a chaotic hum that mirrored his thoughts. He headed towards a park nearby, his mind racing with the logistics of what he would say. But an unexpected realization struck. Talking to Sarah wasn't the only confrontation awaiting him. Jason needed to tackle his own narrative, his own expectations of success, and the perceived need to hide his vulnerabilities. Turning the corner, he spotted a small bench where the shadows of the trees danced in the light. A moment of reflection was necessary. He sat, heart pounding, feeling the weight of his intention settling within him, and then a flicker of doubt crossed his mind. Was he about to unravel everything he had carefully built? Just before he could spiral into uncertainty, a girl came running past, laughter spilling from her lips. She was carefree, untethered by the burdens of adulthood. For the briefest moment, Jason was reminded of Mia, the innocence of childhood, the fleeting joy that came with truth. With unfolding resolve, Jason once again opened the notebook, flipping through its pages until his eye caught a handwritten note. "In order to find yourself, you must first lose your illusions." Could this finally be his moment of revelation? Turning the page, he pondered how to shed those illusions that had defined him for so long. The answer was waiting just beyond the next corner of his life's journey. Jason felt a deep pulse of anticipation. He was on the verge of facing the most poignant truths of his life. But he had to be ready for whatever lay ahead on this path of self-discovery. Little did he know, a confrontation awaited him not merely with Sarah, but a deeper one that would draw back the curtain on truths he had long avoided facing, not just as a man, but as the father he desperately wished to be. Jason's feet carried him deeper into the park as he wrestled with the weight of his impending conversation with Sarah. The once boisterous chatter of children had faded into a distant hum, leaving an eerie calm that only amplified the thudding of his heart. Each step felt deliberate, purposeful, as he began to sketch the script of honesty he longed to present. Visions of Sarah flickered through his mind, a vibrant smile, masking an undercurrent of hurt. He was determined to confront not just the aftermath of their breakup, but the ghosts of his indecision. But beneath that resolve lingered anxiety, ready to ensnare him in self-doubt. What if she didn't understand? What if the truths he unveiled only deepened a rift between them? He paused near a rustling hedge, drawing in a sharp breath. Was he prepared to dismantle the polished facade he had hidden behind? Gathered strength surged within him as he recalled the words from his notebook. The image of Mia emerged again, bright, innocent eyes brimming with trust. If only he could nurture that same openness and courage in his conversations. Perhaps even the most difficult encounters could transform into opportunities for connection. In his mind's eye, he could see her face scrunching in confusion. "Daddy, why don't you just say what you feel?" Her perceptiveness cut deeper than any knife. That childlike honesty was something he had stifled in himself over the years. He repositioned himself on that park bench, pulling out the notebook once more to glean from the insights that awaited him. This time, he let the pages unfold without judgment. Were the illusions I've fostered? He asked himself, searching for clarity among the scrawled reflections, the shared stories of losses, lessons, and longing. One entry caught his eye, written in bold, looping letters. "Vulnerability is not a weakness." The words echoed in his mind, carving pathways previously blocked by shame. Vulnerability had petrified within him, crystallized by past experiences where revealing too much only yielded pain. Could that be the key he was overlooking? He scrolled back through the thoughts pinned on those pages, grappling with insights that required absolute honesty. Each word unraveled the tight knot in his chest, inflating his courage. He was more than just a man defined by mistakes. He was a person constantly navigating toward understanding and redemption. "I'm no longer afraid," he whispered to himself, the statement quickening his pulse. "I will speak my truth." With renewed determination, he envisioned the confrontation with Sarah no longer static images of discomfort, but a dynamic exchange where both stripped away defenses in search of reconciliation. If drawn by an unseen force. Jason rose from the bench, stepping under the sunlight that streaked through the leaves above. The warmth enveloped him, and he felt the transformative power of taking action. The vibrant world around him contrasted with the murky doubts of his mind, a reminder that life's beauty was often hidden beneath layers of fear that he suddenly halted. The air shifted, and he recalled his mentor's guidance. Listen as much as you speak. This wasn't merely about expressing himself. It was about forging a dialogue. Another layer pulled back. If he was going to untangle the issues with Sarah, he must confront the root of his own hesitations first. He glanced toward the exit of the park, knowing he had to act soon. Each second that passed sent ripples of urgency coursing through him. Would Sarah be receptive? Would she be willing to confront her own truths alongside him? His heart ached with the reality of their tangled past, the love, the misunderstandings, the unresolved attachments. Deep in thought, he made his way toward the park's gate, but an unexpected figure caught his eye, a woman sitting on the ground, scraggly hair obscuring her face, surrounded by discarded items. She rummaged through a bag, her movements deliberate, methodical, but a sudden intuition gripped him. Perhaps she held the key to understanding things he had overlooked. What if she had insights about life that could ground him in the present moment? Jason hesitated, but then approached her, curiosity driving him forward. "Excuse me," he started softly, his heart racing at this unfamiliar encounter. "Can I ask you something?" The moment felt fragile as he prepared to step into the unknown yet again. This time, he was ready to deal with the depths of what that meant, perhaps gaining understanding not just for himself, but for the conversations to come. What unexpected revelations awaited in this brief encounter? The moment hung thick with possibilities, teetering on the brink of transformation. The woman slowly lifted her gaze, revealing deep lines etched across her weathered face, eyes bright with a flickering resolve. She regarded Jason for a long moment, as though measuring the weight of his presence against her reality. A faint glimmer of surprise crossed her features, but doubt lingered, casting a shadow over her posture. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice rough yet steady, interlaced with a cautious energy that mirrored Jason's own uncertainty. His heart raced. He hadn't planned any specific question. The idea of seeking wisdom from a stranger was both enticing and daunting. I'm looking for insights about life, I guess. Is it okay if I sit?" He pointed to a small patch of ground beside her. She shifted slightly, creating space, and nodded. "Go ahead. Just don't expect me to sugarcoat things." As he nestled beside her, he felt an unusual calm amid his turmoil. "Sometimes it's hard to be honest with myself. I'm about to have an important conversation, and I need to know how to really connect with vulnerability, I guess." The woman chuckled, a sound that rumbled like thunder, yet oddly comforting. "Vulnerability? That's a big word for someone who's never been in my shoes. You think you know vulnerability? Try living without a roof over your head," she retorted, her tone sharp but not unkind. Jason's thoughts tightened around that idea. His privileged life had shielded him from raw, unfiltered necessity. Perhaps she would offer him insights he'd never encountered, a view from a different abyss. What if facing vulnerability means risking the comfort of silence? Isn't some pain better left untouched? She paused, sifting through the items in her bag, extracting a worn notebook. It's nice to consider silence a comfort, but it can bury you alive. You want to avoid pain, but it still lingers, doesn't it? The ache inside can grow louder than 1,000 voices. So you're afraid to confront it. I get it. Jason absorbed her words, feeling an undertow of recognition. Unraveling the truth wasn't easy. "And how do you confront your truth?" he asked, compelled to learn more. "By digging," she replied, eyes twinkling with a hint of mischief. "Not just in this bag, but in my mind. It's a lot of hard work, peeling back layers of denial. You have to ask yourself the raw questions." "What do you mean by raw questions?" The term resonated with Jason, reverberating against echoes of his introspection. Questions like, what am I really afraid of? Who do I trust enough to share my truths with? When you dig deep enough, you find remnants of hope. Connections. Even discarded thoughts can bloom into something powerful. It's about being honest with what you uncover. Each word she spoke pierced through his doubts, shining light on the tangled shadows of his heart. "But what if I unearth things I don't want to face? Things I regret?" "Regret?" She scoffed. "It's a luxury of those who clawed their way back from the edge. Regret tells you how to grow. Embrace it, but don't let it drown you." Live and now, Jason felt a flicker of understanding ignite within. The wisdom she imparted seemed simple, yet its depth was profound. His habitual avoidance of raw honesty with Sarah, the fear of her reaction, began to dissolve under the weight of her insights. "Thank you," he said, courage surging again, propelled by newfound clarity. "I have to confront my truths, not just for myself, but for her too. Maybe vulnerability is the path to connection I've overlooked." "Good luck, kid," she said, packing her belongings. "But remember, it's not just about talking, it's about listening. You'll learn just as much, if not more, from her response." He stood up, a wave of gratitude washing over him. "I'll make sure to listen," he promised, his voice steadier now. He turned to leave, but something paused him. "Wait," she called, and he glanced back. "You don't have to thank me or anything. Just do something with what you've learned today. But remember, It's a lot harder to be fearless than to have courage for one moment. Her words echoed in his mind as he exited the park, his stride now more assured. Stepping into the daylight, he felt a magnetic pull toward his upcoming conversation with Sarah. He needed to be both vulnerable and stronger than ever before. But how would she respond to the truths he was ready to share? As he moved closer to the threshold of their interaction, he wondered if uncovering deeper insights about himself might also reveal unexpected complexities within her. What if they were both unearthing the same emotional treasure? Jason took a breath, adrenaline pulsating in his veins. He was ready to face Sarah, but not without grappling with the possibility of having to confront the pain of their past together as well. The moment had finally arrived, but uncertainty lingered, fueled by untold revelations that awaited him. Jason stood outside of Sarah S.'s apartment, pulse quickening as he confronted the reality that lay beyond the door. The conversations he had held with himself during moments of isolation, in the vibrant cafe, and even with the woman behind the dumpster paved the way for this significant encounter. Today wasn't just about revisiting the past. It was about reconstructing their foundation, piece by piece, into something built on trust. He inhaled deeply, releasing the doubts that threatened to creep back in. Vulnerability had become his ally, the lifeline that connected him to authentic communication. Jason had resolved to approach this reunion with honesty, determined to embrace the complexity of both their emotions. Knocking softly, he felt the weight of time pressing against him. Each second felt elongated as he waited for the door to open. Finally, Sarah appeared, surprise washing over her features before she masked it with neutrality. The softness in her eyes mirrored his own uncertainty. "Jason," she said, voice tinged with caution. "Hey, Sarah," he replied, stepping into the unfamiliar space that once held so many memories. The scent of fresh paint and scattered remnants of their intertwined past filled the air. "Can't say I expected to see you here." She crossed her arms, confusion flickering. He took a moment to gather his thoughts, an elaborate tapestry woven from regret, understanding, and newfound perspective. "I know that between us there have been many unsaid things. So many mistakes that linger like smoke in the air, and I've come to realize that it's time to clear that haze together." As he spoke, he noticed her guard slowly lowering, brow furrowing as she processed his words. Jason continued, "I've spent too long hiding behind success, self-preservation, or even fear. I've allowed the illusions of comfort to blind me to the truth, our truth." Sarah's posture softened, a spark of recognition igniting in her eyes. "I felt that too, you know. The distance, the strain on what we had. It's been hard. I've come to understand that needing to face uncomfortable truths might lead to healing. I want to dig deeper, to confront what we've ignored," he asserted, the steadiness in his voice revealing a conviction born through self-discovery that a moment passed between them, charged yet cautious. "But can they be reconciled?" she asked, voice a whisper, a lifetime of yearning stitched into her question. "You deserve answers, even if they're difficult. I want to talk about what went wrong. We need to unpack everything. The decisions that hurt us, the regrets that linger, the things we never shared," he elucidated, each word pouring from a place of raw energy, fueled by revelation from their shared stories. Their eyes locked, and without breaking their gaze, Sarah whispered, "I'm scared." Jason felt a wave of empathy crash over him. "I'm scared too. But can we allow ourselves to be vulnerable with each other? Can we be honest?" The walls around Sarah seemed to fracture under the weight of his sincerity, her brow relaxing. "Yes, I want that. But it's so terrifying." Taking a step closer, he softened his tone. "Maybe embracing fear is the key to moving forward. We've been here before. Sometimes letting ourselves feel the cracks allows something new to emerge. Let us promise to listen, to not just speak." Jason felt a new warmth emerge in the space between them, the possibilities burgeoning like dormant seeds stretching towards the sun. Moments passed, and he could see the threads of their past weaving back together. "Okay," she nodded, words echoing with a weighty resolve that turned lighter by the second. Let us start afresh, then. In the ensuing hours, they tore down the confines of their old relationship, delving into messy details no longer suppressed by pride or misunderstanding. For the first time in years, Jason felt a sense of connection solidifying, pieces coming together that once felt irretrievably lost. As the sun began to set, casting effulgent hues through the window, Jason emerged from a storm of revelations. Together, they had planted seeds for a new beginning, one where honesty and vulnerability served as shorelines between their histories and futures. Jason felt liberated, filled with renewed courage, unmasking layers he had feared to confront. Walking away from Sarah S. apartment after their honest dive, he felt more at peace than he had in years. He had stepped into the discomfort of vulnerable communication and emerged stronger, rooted in clarity and anchored to a commitment to foster authenticity in his life. The waves of doubt that had once redecorated his ambitions were gone. Mia awaited his return, and a sense of purpose surged through him. He would be a father who didn't shy away from vulnerability. He would embody honesty and openness, forging a deeper bond with his daughter. Each step he took resonated with the understanding that this personal evolution would cultivate the meaningful legacy he wished to pass on to as he approached home. Jason felt a sense of triumph wash over him, not just for nurturing a budding connection with Sarah or embracing his own evolution, but for finally conquering the fear that had clung to him like a shadow. He was no longer merely existing in the spaces of his wealth. He was living, truly living. This was just the beginning of an ongoing journey, one of transformation and commitment to both his daughter and himself. His heartbeat echoed the happiness this newfound clarity instilled. He was ready to embrace every moment. No longer would he allow superficial accomplishments to define success. Instead, he would be a compassionate father, aware of life's complexities, unafraid to connect and cultivate the deeper relationships that fulfilled his heart. This was Jason Wright, transformed, resolved, and prepared to face the journey ahead with open arms. Now, as you've connected intimately with Jason's transformative journey, I beckon you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel. Don't miss out on upcoming exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to support our message and feed the algorithm. Your engagement means the world to us. Comment below your reactions and theories about this powerful ending. We want to hear from you, and don't wait even one more second. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative conclusion. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories truly understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Don't hold back.